Go.
Right, this is our nutrition presentation on post-exercise protein consumption recommendations for vegetarian strength-based athletes. So, for our intro, we'll basically be talking about protein and how it is consumed and how they provide energy for vegetarian athletes. We'll be going through their daily protein intake as well as some meal plans for them and how an overview of how they intake their protein and get their energy stores. So just a brief post-workout protein. Basically, protein is meant for recovery and the muscle growth, and it's very important before they exercise as they get their energy stores up. As you can see, there's two studies that suggest that vegetarians do not need to overload their protein meals as they only need spaced out meals throughout the day.
Alright, so before we talk the actual post-workout consumption, it's better to talk about the total protein requirement, because without sufficient protein per day, the post-workout consumption is irrelevant. So 1.6 to 2.0 grams per kilogram of body weight is what's sufficient, is what's recommended for the athlete, and 3 to 5 doses per day of protein. It's better, as mentioned previously, to have that instead of like 1 or 2 big meals. The needs are actually pretty similar between men and women, and slightly older athletes are probably recommended to stay towards the end of that range, so the 2.0 grams. So what is the anabolic window? What is the exercise post-workout consumption of protein? Does it matter? To what extent does it matter? So let's see. Well, it turns out it actually doesn't matter that much. There is an anabolic window, but it's a lot longer than previously thought. So as long as you consume a meal 2 to 3 hours prior to the workout, then you have about 2 to 3 hours post-workout available to you to actually consume sufficient amount of protein. What is sufficient? Well, 20 to 40 grams both pre and post-workout. And now with one question down, another one arises. So since we know about the post-workout consumption, do you need any supplementation? Do you need any whey protein? Well, maybe or maybe not. There's been research that says that whey protein is pretty irrelevant, doesn't cause any significant amount of growth. Really, the only time that whey protein is relevant is when insufficient amount of protein is taken per day. So if you consume less than 1.6 grams per kilogram per day, then you can supplement with whey protein. And we can see some relevant graphs from studies. You can see right here the changes observed in muscle strength and lean soft tissue after 12 weeks of resistance training. And you can see the people who consume 3 meals per day at least, and the ones that consume 3 high protein meals per day. The ones that consume 3 meals, there was an observation of greater change. So we can see that it's recommended that more meals are intaken per day. And then another study right here on the differences between different sources of protein. You can see it doesn't really matter, whey protein, soy protein, whatever type of protein, similar results, insignificant amount of difference. So it's up to the individual and the preferences.
Indispensable amino acids. To consume the best quality protein, all 9 essential amino acids must be consumed. Inefficient consumption of essential amino acids will lead to reduced recovery as well as increased muscle fatigue, which of course poses a big problem to strength-based athletes, as the primary indicators to elite success is sustaining an effective program along with resisting injury. Although it is a challenge for vegetarian athletes to ingest a high amount of indispensable amino acids. This is due to there being a very low amount in plant-based foods. But a solution to this is to combine the foods to ingest a higher amount. Food examples. Vegetarians once again face more challenges as the main source of protein comes from meat. Alternatives will include tofu, eggs, beans and plant-based protein shakes. And meal examples of this are vegetarian lasagna, sesame noodles and vegan pad thai. These are very high in carbohydrates and low in saturated fats. Supplementations. The purpose of supplementations are to reach dietary needs and to prevent deficiencies in the diet and to improve the overall diet. They come in forms of protein shakes and protein bars. An example of a plant-based protein shake is right here, and it is composed of coconut, pea, rice and seeds. And here is an example of a meal plan of a vegetarian strength-based athlete. It is an Olympic lifter weighing in 90 kilograms and 175 centimeters, training 4 hours a day and with a focus of gaining muscle mass. Using the Harris-Benedict equation, his BMR would be 2010, but with very high energy expenditure, it will increase to 3,820. We've included many meals throughout the day, such as a pre-bedtime meal, a post-exercise meal, 2 post-exercise meals, and 4 big meals throughout the day to reach the goal of 286 grams.
Perfect.
Now, with everything that was said before, let's see some benefits and some disadvantages of vegetarian diet on strength-based athletes. A study that was based on a vegan powerlifter over a 6-week period, an improvement of his body composition was being observed with a decrease of his body mass and his fat mass alongside with an increase of his muscle mass. Also, a high satiety was observed for the athlete, and that was most definitely because of the protein intake that was quite sufficient, despite the overall energy intake that was quite low. Also, another study suggests that when the daily amount of protein and the post-workout amount of protein are consumed, there's similar increase of muscle mass when you compare plant-based protein sources and animal-based protein sources. In this study, you can see that when you compare semi-skimmed milk and soya milk prior to the exercise, there was the same results, similar results were observed when it comes to increase of strength performance. Now, so disadvantage of these vegetarian diets is that when you compare semi-skimmed milk and soya milk, the muscle protein synthesis at recovery times is quite higher when it's the semi-skimmed milk, as you can see in the graph. And also, as I said before, with the study of the vegan powerlifter over a 6-week period, the athlete has said that high amounts of soy protein supplementation cause him to reduce the variability of foods that he can consume, as well as deficiency of some major micronutrients like iron, calcium, iron, and magnesium. Also, a very important factor that we have to keep in mind is that plant-based diets, as you can see, are way higher in essential amino acid concentrations compared to animal-based protein sources. And as we know, essential amino acids have a critical role on skeletal muscle anabolism, as well as stimulation of muscle protein synthesis.
Perfect.
To conclude, the post-workout anabolic window is not as relevant for the athlete and lasts approximately 2 to 3 hours if a pre-workout meal containing sufficient protein is taken, also 2 to 3 hours prior to the workout. A high protein meal should be consumed post-workout, around 20 to 40 grams. Plant-based diets are beneficial for powerlifters as long as the athlete takes in their daily protein requirement. This can primarily be done with or without supplementation. If a high-protein plant-based diet is consumed, the athlete may have to pay a close attention to their micronutrient intake.